Welcome back, TCS TV viewers. It's Chris Niccolls here from TCS TV. We've got this beautiful evening and we're out here shooting the Nikon D7500. I'm excited to play with this camera. You know, when we first got our preview look at it, we weren't sure if this is a very smart collection of interesting features or is this just more market tier segmentation. Well, we're going to find that out tonight, and I decided to bring the 18-300 Nikon VR lens. I like this lens. It's a good walk-around lens, very indicative of what a casual enthusiast might use on a camera just like this. Now, the D7500 does use the brand new 180,000 RGB metering system that the D5 and the D500 also have. This is Nikon's latest metering, and I've always liked the way that they've metered their cameras, but maybe it's just the fact that every week I'm using a brand new camera and I'm always having to relearn how these things meter, but I am finding it a little bit unpredictable. It's doing a good job. It especially does a great job when I'm shooting into things like suns and sunsets in the background, where I would normally have to make a compensation, but at other times where I think I'm okay, it's gonna under overexposed. Just takes some getting used to. I'm getting there. Now, this does use the 20 megapixel sensor that the D500 also uses. And one of the reasons why we're out here late at night is not only are we getting beautiful light, but what this sensor does excel at is low light performance, especially on an APS-C sized chip. And that's a really big deal. I keep saying it. I really do think that APS-C is catching up to full frame in a lot of ways, especially things like low light performance. So this camera would be excellent for doing wedding photography or night shoots or any sort of low light photography. I think we'd do a good job with this sensor in it. All right, so I want to talk about autofocus next here, folks, and I'm going to give you the good and the bad. You know, this is one of the examples where, although the autofocus is decent, it's not going to have the D500 AF system, and that camera has an amazing hit rate. So you're not going to be able to tackle the same kind of event and, you know, wildlife, sports kind of stuff, journalism that camera can handle. It does have a 51-point autofocusing system, however, and it has been mated with the X-Speed 5 processor, so it should be a little bit faster, a little bit more accurate. It's still a fairly central cluster of autofocusing points, but much like the 7100 and 7200, that's to be expected. However, we do have a unique benefit because this does have the 180,000 point RGB metering system, and that does help your AF in a few ways. First off, we get face detect through the viewfinder, and actually Jordan did some night photography with a concert, and he was testing that stuff out and actually found that it worked very, very well with people's faces, picking them up. That would make this camera excellent in a wedding situation or maybe event photography situation where you didn't need ultra fast tracking. It does have 3D focusing. I'm using it tonight and I'm liking it. I don't notice any real difference over the other cameras. It's fairly accurate, but sometimes it does lose its way. And the focusing points are designed now to be very good with smaller, finer detail, but as we've tried around, you know, at night, especially in low light, we're still having a hard time. Faces, it does a great job, but small, fine details, it can still get lost and it still can get confused. Now, of course, when it comes to autofocus on the back screen, it's not going to be great. This is still Nikon's Achilles heel. It's quite slow tracking. So again, your video shots, they're not going to do a great job. I do like that we have touchscreen on the back of this, and of course it is a flip out screen vertically. Nice slim profile. One thing though to keep in mind is they've actually dropped the resolution down to just over 900,000 dots. That's actually less than the D7200 and way less than the D500. I've got to admit, I'm not really noticing it that much, but this is definitely a segmentation and cost-cutting feature. The autofocus lamp's coming on, but it's not going to do any. Get out here. All right, folks, so you can probably tell behind me it's a little windy, but hopefully we're going to get a break here so we can mention some stuff. This is the first camera to do batch processing of RAW files in camera. Now, that's kind of neat, especially if you're going to do some event work or journalism. You might find that handy. And to further enhance that kind of idea of doing wedding work or something with these cameras, this camera actually does have a pop-up flash, but also supports radio and the CLS system. Now, I know the D500 can do that and the D5 can do that, but they don't have a pop-up flash. And the unique benefit benefit there is I can do CLS with the infrared light as well as radio triggering of flashes at the same time. So far, this is the only camera in the Nikon lineup that can really do that. Now, on top of that, this camera shoots 8 frames per second. It has decent autofocusing and good low light performance. So I could really see a pair of the 7500s being a really good kit for a wedding photography. 2 lenses, 1 lens on each body, and I could just shoot this duo all night long. The carbon fiber body actually makes this camera very lightweight. We've got very similar handling to many of the other Nikon cameras. I like the info button. I like the joystick control for autofocus. This camera could certainly handle those events quite well with all these features. It's pretty awesome, actually. I know that this isn't a 18-300 review today, but actually I have to say this lens has amazing close-up capability, which of course I love. I love my macros, I love my detail shots, so I'm actually really enjoying the lens. Now, I know I'm going on and on about the D7500 being a good event camera, wedding camera on a budget, and it has a lot of pro features to back that up. I mean, we've talked about the fast frame rate, it's got a decent buffer, 100% viewfinder, which is excellent on a camera like this, carbon fiber reinforced body, and even a modicum of weather sealing, although not anywhere close to what the D500 has. But oddly enough, although this camera has some powerful features, it has a big downside, and it's unfortunately a downside which really keeps this camera from being a very useful professional body that you can rely on, and that's actually just the fact that there's only one single card slot. And it's only UHS 1 as well. I mean, that means you've got no card backup, no overflow, and I mean, if you're going to shoot an event or a wedding or something like that, you're really going to appreciate having that, and unfortunately, that means that you're probably going to be looking at the D500 if you're going to do that kind of work. And I mean, that's not a bad thing. That's an awesome camera. It does an amazing job, but it's also substantially more expensive. Now, on top of that, there's no battery grip, and I don't mind because I hate those things, but a lot of people love them. They do give you good battery life to shoot all day long, and if you're going to try to get into wildlife and sports, again, it can be really nice to balance those long lenses. So unfortunately, again, it pushes the 7500 down into a powerful, but unfortunately not very capable journalistic and event device. Oh, now I shouldn't fail to mention that the D7500 does have the new Snapbridge technology, Bluetooth and Wi-Fi capability, and it works great when you get it set up, and hopefully one day Nikon will actually make it easy to set up. But it does occur to me that having the batch processing of your RAW files can actually be very useful if you're then going to go ahead and send things to your phone, right? Take some raw photos, capture that dynamic range, edit it a little bit in camera, and then you can bang it out to Instagram and send it to friends and family. And that's a nice feature to have once you get it set up.
Hey guys, it's Jordan to talk about the video features on the D7500 in our secret image quality testing facility. And when we were out shooting with the 7500, it's actually quite nice. I really like having the articulating display on this. We get a headphone jack, a mic jack, although again, the preamps on this guy are pretty bad, so you want to use a powered microphone with it. And we get the 4K features from the D500, and Nikon's made a big show of this. But bear in mind, we weren't crazy about the 4K recording on the D500, mostly because of the heavy crop factor you're dealing with. It's actually more than a 2 times crop of full frame when you're using this, and that means you might have to bring out some different lenses. If we want to shoot stills and then switch to video, you're definitely going to have to change your focal length. I find it quite inconvenient. And it also means we're starting to see now some crop sensor cameras like the X-T2 A6500, which are oversampling and then downscaling that to 4K, which gives you sharper images, less noise. This one is just using the central 8 megapixels of the sensor, and as a result, a little more noise, a little less sharpness than we're seeing with some of the options. Video quality is quite nice, don't get me wrong, but it's definitely not class leading, and we need to see an improvement from Nikon on these. This isn't the camera to do that, though.
Well, we're running out of light, so we're going to be heading home. And, frankly, the wind's blown me away today, but the D7500 sure hasn't. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry about that, but it hasn't. It's a terrible joke, but the 7500 is something that when I first saw it in the store and I first kind of looked at the specs, I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. And you hold the camera, it's light, it's compact, it feels really good. I actually really do like using the camera. It's designed well, it handles well, just exactly as it's expected to be. But I think the challenge comes when I then ask myself, who is this camera for? And that's where it kind of falters. I mean, it has good video, it has good image quality, but if you want to combine those two, you're probably going to look at a mirrorless camera. And then if we look at a bigger SLR, you know, what SLRs are good at? Wildlife, sports, journalism, you know, fast shooting, rugged shooting. Well, the D500 really has the features you're going to want to have, like the dual slots, the battery grip, the stronger weather sealing, and the better autofocus. About the only thing this camera really has, it's got that new 20 megapixel sensor, and it is a unique beast. There's some good stuff there, but otherwise I feel like this camera is going to get left behind. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Again, I enjoyed the 7500. I just feel that it doesn't have a home anywhere, and that might be something we're going to have to see as this camera hits the market and really starts to sell. I hope you enjoyed that. Comment, let us know, subscribe, check us out on Twitter, check us out on Instagram, look at the photos that we took here tonight. I like this camera, guys, but really nowadays with mirrorless creeping and it becoming so prevalent, SLRs really have to wow us. They really have to blow us away. Until next time, see you soon.